afternoon and welcome to this session on panel discussion on scripting protest, theatre and society. And we have with us four eminent theatre personalities. First, I would like to introduce short introduction. Sudanva Deshpande, radical theatre activist associated with Jananatya Mancha, People's Theatre Front. He also heads Left World Books, an independent publication, and street theatre has been his forte. Then Srijit Ramanan, theatre maker, researcher and theatre trainer. He has produced more than 80 productions in India, Japan, Singapore, Indonesia and Malaysia. And we have Lakshmi Chandrasekhar, is an Indian actress in Kannada film industry and a theatre artist. And the most important thing is she has been a prolific translator between Kannada and English. Then there is not a person but an institution. And I'm really afraid of sharing stage with Prasanna sir. And it is very difficult to introduce Prasanna. And he's a veteran, and to my generation, he is known as the founder of Samudaya, then Charaka. And in fact, he reinvented Gandhian Charaka for most of us. He is an important voice, not only in Karnataka, but you all know about him. The veteran theatre director and playwright, handloom activist. And his latest venture, very interesting and very important venture, Playing with Life, curated selection of digital pencil sketches. So it is indeed a pleasure and to have you all on this panel. The focus of this panel discussion is the relationship between theatre and society, and each one of them have explored different dimensions of theatre. My first question to panelists, you can take 10 minutes in the first round. I would like to, I'm interested in your biography, you know. How do you connect your life with theatre, and how do you see society through theatrical activities? So may I begin with Lakshmi Chandrasekhar first? Ladies first.
Thank you for the privilege. Well, my mentor is right here. For me to relate to society through theatre, it was my years with Samudaya which molded my thinking, and Prasanna, of course, was at the helm of that movement. In fact, to go to my own biography, when I got married and went to England, my husband had a lot of leftist friends in Oxford and Cambridge, very well-known names like Prabhat and Utsa Patnaik, Deepak Nair and Rohini Nair, Malini and Mihir Bhattacharya. You know, there was always very radical kind of talk going on. And I was like an ignoramus in the midst of all these people, having just done my MA in English from Mysore. Although I had eminent teachers like Dr. Yuvanand Murthy and Rajiv Tadanath, etc. But my thinking was really molded by all that I listened to. And when I came back to India, it was soon after the emergency. And in Mysore, there was a play production workshop arranged and the director of that workshop was one Mr. Peter Coe from London. And he took the story of Snehalata Reddy and made that into a play. So I was playing Snehalata Reddy's role and how she suffered in prison when they made her work with cotton and she was asthmatic, and how she was hounded for shielding, I think George Fernandez, Michael Fernandez, etc. All that was part of this play. We had actually taken Pirandello's 6 characters in search of an author, but it turned into that. And we also took bits of Snehalata Reddy's play Sita, in which Sita doing Agni Pravesha is not to prove to Rama her chastity, but with the intention, it is better to jump into fire than live with a man like this. So that appealed to me a lot. And so when I came to Bangalore, I decided to do theatre which would relate to society, which would describe the plight of women and protest against the atrocities against women and workers, etc. And I was told, even while I was in Mysore, Samudaya is the group you should go and join. So I entered Samudaya when Prasanna was directing Galileo, and straight away he gave me a role. So my growth as an artist and as a thinker, really, I owe to Samudaya. And after that, we did a lot of protest theatre. Can I go on after my biography? Shall I pass it on to the others and then we can come back to this? Yeah.
So firstly, I would like to thank the organizers, those who invited me to be part of this such a beautiful program, especially Kiran Bhatt and Kamalagar Bhatt for inviting me to be part of this Samajamukhi, the Literary Theatre Festival. So I'm very fortunate and deeply humbled to be sit along with Prasanna Sir and other eminent dignitaries on the dais. I don't want to cross my time limit, and I have written down some of my points that I am going to share with all of you. So I came here today wearing 2 hats, that of an academic and that of a freelance theatre practitioner. For a long time, my work revolved around theatre classrooms, theory and research. As usual, the people, those who enter into theatre academics, most of them used to work in theatre academics for a long time. But over the years, I began to feel that something vital was missing. That bridge connecting thought with lived reality, art with its people, and that is how my journey into community theatre began. Not as a shift away from academics, but an extension of it into the soil of everyday life. In the last few years, my focus has been on community theatre project, to explore how theatre can become a healing tool, a voice for those whose stories are unheard and mirror to the social wounds we collectively endure. So I would like to share 2 such experiences that are very close to my heart. So the first is Tindari Pacha, an interactive community theatre project I created with a group of 12 women artists from Niravil Prakash Kala Kendram, Kollam. It's a local theatre group from southern part of Kollam. This performance arose from conversation about menstruation, a subject wrapped in silence, shame, and misunderstanding. Through dance, dialogue, mime, song, and body movement, the women reclaimed their narratives, breaking taboos with humor, grace, and courage. The play takes a critical look at how society and media construct the image of the menstruating woman, often sanitized, commodified, or erased. So what began as a performance became for these women a process of self-recognition and empowerment. It was protest not in the loudness of slogans, but in the quiet power of reclaiming one's body and voice. So the second project, Chevitorma, emerged from the coastal villages of Vaipi and surrounding regions of Ernakulam, where tidal flooding, what scientists call sunny day flooding, has become an everyday disaster. So some of you may know that. So the water, seawater coming into the house every day, and the water level going up to the, like 3 feet, 4 feet every day, is throughout the year. So Wiping, some of you know that is a narrow strip of land between the Arabian Sea and the backwaters, beautiful yet fragile. The people there, most of them whom depend on fishing and local coolie work, live with the anxiety of their homes sinking, wall cracking, and land eroding. So when Equinox, it's an NGO working among these people, and researchers from the Tata Institute of Social Sciences initiated a study on this environmental crisis. I was invited to create a community theatre performance as part of their resilience models. So that is how this Chevitorma was born, out of these lives, voices, and memories of those very villagers. So it was not an easy process. Many were hesitant to participate. Theatre was unfamiliar to them, and the pain too personal. But slowly, a group of 15 local people came together, fisher folks, daily wage workers, homemakers, led by a local Chautanada artist named Albert. So together we transformed a decayed house, half submerged, half ruined, into a performance space. The stage itself was a tank full of water, forcing audience to experience the physical reality of flooding through scenes woven from their memories, festivals, losses, song, rituals, and funerals. Chevitorma told the story of a community resilience in the face of climate change. For me, Chevitorma was not just a performance. It was a collective act of witnessing a protest against ecological neglect and a theatre of solidarity. Both this project, Tindaripacha and Chevitorma, have taught me the protest in theatre does not always have to shout. Sometimes it simply has to listen, to create a space where people can tell their truth in their own language, rhythm and pain. So, as practitioners, we often speak of theatre as an art of transformation. But through these experiences, I have come to realize that it is also an art of belonging. It helps communities see themselves, reimagine their possibilities, and heal together. So when we speak of scripting protest, perhaps we are not merely writing plays. We are writing ways of being, ways of remembering, resisting, and reasserting humanity in the face of silence and justice. So that's a point now I would like to raise in this panel. So the plays that I mentioned, these are still performing in Kerala and outside of Kerala also. So I would like to,
You asked us to speak about our own sort of biographies in a sense, and I just want to say that that's really not quite important as far as I'm concerned. A few years ago, I'd written a book called, this is in Kannada of course, I'd written it in English called Halla Bol, The Death and Life of Safdar Hashmi. Safdar Hashmi was a theatre person who inspired me. I think of him as a comrade, as a guru, as a friend, as a mentor, and so on. And how I came into theatre and how I ended up with Jannatyam, which is a story that I've told here, so I'm not going to rehash that story here. But I do want to make a couple of other points. One is that, when I was growing up in Delhi, my father used to teach in the Jawaharlal Nehru University, which at that time was a tiny campus, and it felt like it was an island off the coast of Delhi. Delhi was somewhere far away, and we were, an island. And just going to watch a play meant a whole production. that you had to go, then you had to catch a bus after the play, somehow find a bus to catch, because we were not rich enough to go by cabs and so on and so forth, and then come up to Munirka, and then from Munirka at night, late night, we used to walk back all the way to JNU. So that used to be the routine thing, and at that time it didn't really make sense to me, but subsequently I asked myself the question, why is it that all theatre seems to happen in only a few places in Delhi? And I suspect that that's true of most other Indian cities. The theatre centers are basically located around spaces that are accessed by the elite. They don't have to be the super rich, but the culturally elite people are the only people who get access to culture in this sense, right? And so when I came into Jannatimans, it just immediately made sense to me, because Jannatimans started with this idea that if people can't come to the theatre, then theatre must go to the people. And so therefore we were going into working class areas, into bastis, into factories, into schools, into colleges, etc., and performing where the people were. And when we went and performed where the people were, we found, I found, of course Jannatimans had been doing this for a while before I came into the group, but I found that there's no dearth of audiences in this country. You know, any time that you want to perform, there will be an audience. There's no problem. Middle of the night also, you'll find an audience. The other thing that made sense to me, as I started sort of reading a little bit more and coming to my own political consciousness, in a sense, and particularly when I was researching this book, I came across an unpublished note that Safdar had written sometime in the early 1980s, where it's a very enigmatic note, but basically the important point that he makes there is that he says that street theatre is the newspaper of the poor. And that was a very striking phrase, newspaper of the poor. What does that mean? Now, does it mean that it gives you the news of what happened yesterday? No, it doesn't. Obviously, street theatre can't be a news delivering form. Then what does it mean? I think what Safdar meant was that newspapers, at least in the old days, now of course newspapers have become something else. I don't even know what they are anymore. But in the old days, the idea of the newspaper was that there would be two parts to it. One would be the reportage, and the other would be the editorializing. So you make sense of the world, the happenings that are happening around you. You make sense of that through the editorializing role that the newspaper has. And it seemed to me that Safdar was making this point that it's the newspaper of the poor, in the sense that this is how the poor, by which he meant the working classes, not just the industrial working class, but the working people, editorialize on the world around them. They make sense of the world around them. So that is number two. The third thing I want to quickly share is something that happened more recently. In fact, in Hekodu, as it happened, and Prasanna is here, so that is fitting that I should speak of Hekodu. I was speaking to students in Hekodu, and I was speaking about some work that we had done in Jannatimans with the Freedom Theatre, which is a theatre based in Jenin, in the north of the West Bank, in Palestine. And I was recounting to them the work that we had done, but obviously this was being done in the context of the ongoing genocide in Gaza at the time. And there was one person in the audience who happened to be a German citizen and was a representative, in fact, of the German government there. And as soon as my talk ended, she raised her hand and she said, "I object to what you're saying." And I said, "What do you object to?" She said, "You are equating what is happening in Gaza today with the Holocaust that the Jews had to undergo in Germany. And that is totally wrong, because the Holocaust is some, etc." I said, well, firstly, I did not do that. I said that a people who suffered a Holocaust should now be doing, their descendants should now be doing this, is something that it boggles my mind. You know, I can't make sense of this. But all right, if you think that using the word Holocaust itself is a problem, I take that back. You tell me, what is happening in Gaza today? Is it okay to call it a genocide? She said, no, you can't call it a genocide because XYZ. I said, okay, is it ethnic cleansing? No, it's not ethnic cleansing because da. Is it a war against humanity? No, it's not because of XYZ. The point I'm trying to make here is that there seems to be a war on words itself, on concepts and words. And I think that this kind of a war that is taking place, it's not a struggle, it's a war. And this war is basically saying that if you are poor, if you are third world, if you are non-white, if you are from oppressed sections of the society, there is no word for what you are undergoing. You see, it's a war. It's a war between two parties. It's not a genocide, it's not a war against, it's not a crime against humanity, it's not ethnic cleansing, etc., etc., etc. It's none of those things. It's just a war, and in a war people die. Yeah, that happens. But actually, if you think about the logic of what is being said here, this same logic applies to all the way down the line. What words do we use to describe what is happening to people who do not have a voice in society? And that is the struggle. That is one of the struggles, I think, that theatre, and particularly the kind of theatre that I do, street theatre, with which all of us in one way or the other have been connected at some point of time in our life, I think this is one of the struggles that we are engaged in. To recover words and thereby to point at a truth that is self-evident, but that is always covered.
ನಾನು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡೋದು ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದು ಅಂತ ನನಗೆ ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿರೋರು ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನವರು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಮೊದಲನೆಯದಾಗಿ ಈ ಒಂದು ಸಮ್ಮೇಳನವನ್ನು ಸಂಘಟಿಸಿರುವ ಸಮಾಜಮುಖಿ ಮತ್ತು ಸಮಾಜಮುಖಿಯ ಹಲವಾರು ಗೆಳೆಯರಿಗೆ ನನ್ನ ವಂದನೆಗಳು. ತುಂಬ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಇದನ್ನು ಸಂಘಟಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇದನ್ನು ಹೇಳಿದ ಮೇಲೆ ಒಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಜಗಳ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನನಗಿದೆ. ಆದರೆ ಅದು ಸಮಾಜಮುಖಿಯ ವಿರುದ್ಧದ ಜಗಳ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಒಟ್ಟಾರೆಯಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಯಾವುದನ್ನ ಸ್ಕ್ರಿಪ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ರೊಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಪ್ರೊಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಕೆನಾಟ್ ಬಿ ಸ್ಕ್ರಿಪ್ಟೆಡ್ ಟುಡೇ. You know, your emblem is a pen. The pen is gone. Don't we realize that the pen is gone from this from the world? It is the world of the mobile. It's the world of the spoken word, and the spoken word appropriated by the machine. You see, the new reality, the new orality is what is governing the world today. ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ನವಮೌಖಿಕತೆ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಆಳುತ್ತಿರುವ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಇನ್ನೂ ಕೂಡ ಬರದ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯವನ್ನು ಸಂಭ್ರಮಿಸಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಕುಳಿತಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಬರದ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯ ಮುಗಿದು ಹೋದ ಕಾಲ. ಬರದ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ನು ಮುಂದೆ ಒಬ್ಬ ಟಾಲ್ಸ್ಟಾಯ್ ಆಗಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಗಾರ್ಕಿ ಆಗಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಟೆಗೋರ್ ಆಗಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಕುವೆಂಪು, ಕಾರಂತರು, ಬೇಂದ್ರೆ ಆಗಲಿ ಬರೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಬರೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ? ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ ಮೌಖಿಕ ಪರಂಪರೆಯಿಂದಲೇ ಬರಬೇಕು. ಆ ಮೌಖಿಕ ಪರಂಪರೆ ಯಾವುದದು? ರಂಗಭೂಮಿ. ಆದರೆ ದುರಂತ ಅಂದರೆ ಇವತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಶತಮಾನಗಳಿಂದ ನಾವು ರಂಗಭೂಮಿಯನ್ನ ಮುಖ್ಯ ವೇದಿಕೆಯಿಂದ ಈ ಅಮುಖ್ಯ ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ತಂದಿಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಈಗಂತೂ ಅಮುಖ್ಯ ವೇದಿಕೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಭಾಷೆನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡಿ ಇನ್ನೂ ದೂರ ಆಗ್ಬಿಡ್ಲಿ ಅನ್ನೋ ಥರ ಒಂದು ಇದಿದೆ. ನಾನು ಯಾರನ್ನೂ ಬೈಯೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಬಟ್ ಇದು ಥಿಯೇಟರ್ಗೆ ಆಗ್ತಿರುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಗಂಭೀರವಾದ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ. ನೋಡಿ, ಇವತ್ತು ನಟರ ಯುಗ ಇದು. This is the world of actors. I don't have to give you many examples except to tell that our Prime Minister changes his costumes about 8 times a day and he acts. Maybe he's a fairly decent actor, but he has no character because he has to change 8 characters in one day. Now in this situation, when even Prime Minister, Thankfully, our Siddaramaiah is better because he uses only one costume, and I am very proud of Siddaramaiah for using only one costume. Trying to hold some sort of a character. Now, in a situation like this, when the actor has become the core cultural man, the tragedy is, man meaning women also, sorry, the tragedy is there is no theatre. Today, let me tell you, the people of this country, ordinary people of this country, especially from Gulbarga or Govindpur or wherever, for them Amitabh Bachchan is the actor, Sholay or whatever the equivalent of that is the theatre, and that is what they are seeing. They are seeing serials, they are stuck in the mobile. So when actually जब फल मिला है उस वक्त सेक्टर ही नहीं है. We have people are wanting live theatre. There is no live theatre. People are wanting to watch theatre. There is no theatre, and then we are celebrating it as a written text. Tell me who reads the written text. Let's be honest. I also write. I'm sorry, I write, and I'm unfortunately writing. Nobody reads. People read occasionally a textbook. That too occasionally. These days they don't even read a textbook. They simply go to the alternate intelligence or artificial intelligence or what. In a situation like this seminar should have been far more focused on the actor and the actor alone. Today is the world of actors. Today, every woman from the village, you give her a microphone, I tell you, she is so eloquent. People have become eloquent. They want to tell things. They want to tell stories. Women want to tell stories. Villagers want to tell stories. In a situation like this, I'm sorry if you are stuck with a pen. How can pen be revolutionary today? Tell me. 2025, can pen be a revolutionary tool? And the pen fellows, can they tell me what revolution should I do? They don't even understand the spoken word. There is such for example, Stanislavski. We were fed Stanislavski from the United States for 100 years. And now, new biography has come of Stanislavski, and for the last 20 years, Stanislavski was passionately trying to understand the spoken word. He realized that unless you translate everything into the spoken word, there is no world. In situations like this, I feel we are being neglected. We were always neglected. Now, yavattu panchamarene. Namana yavattu yajna bhumi olag sersala. Yajna bhumiya ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಕರೆಸಿ ನೀವು ನಾಟಕ ಬೇಕು ಸ್ವಾಮಿ, ದೂರದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾಟಕ ಆಡಿ, ನಿಮಗೆ ಊಟ ಹಾಕ್ತೇವೆ, ಒಂದಿಷ್ಟು ದುಡ್ಡು ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ, ನೀವು ಹೋಗಿ, ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಗಲೀಜು ಜನ. ಗಲೀಜು ಯಾಕೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾ? Because we are sense driven. Can you imagine the moral hypocrisy of calling theatre below par because it is sense driven? And these rascals who are brain driven, the rascals who are brain driven are supposed to be better than me. I'm sorry. The brain driven rascal is morally sick and dirty. It's the sense driven person who can actually lead the world. What is the women's movement? How does a woman respond to the world? A woman responds to the world through her sense, through her body. Is that bad? Is that wrong? These are serious questions, and I think we should tackle these questions instead of doing the same nonsense for 100 years. Protest, scripting protest. Why should I script protest? I want to protest speaking protest. I want to protest by acting protest. We have not even come to action. I'm an actor, she's an actor. An actor has to act. Where is the action today? When there is a camera, and when Narendra Modi doesn't have time to go between one camera and the other camera, where is the action? Why should he do anything for the He will speak for the peasants, he will speak for the women, he will speak for the Biharis, he will speak for the Karnatakas and takes the vote and get away with it because a lot of money is flowing. In situations like this, I think we need to, it has to be a self-criticism of the theatre people. Theatre people have become too complacent. Theatre people have accepted the secondary role given to them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Actually, thank you for setting the agenda of this panel. I would like to know how do you respond to what Prasanna sir said about the crisis of the theatre? Means he shifted theatrical activity to the political arena and the everyday life. So when theatre has shifted itself from on the stage to the public, how do you think we have to reinvent theatre and get it back on the stage? How do you respond to the crisis Prasanna sir said? I will come to the question of women later in the next round, particularly to you.
Well, it depends on what you understand by scripting. For me, I mean, I'm always reminded of this statement by Professor S. Ramaswamy. Every text is a pretext. Every script, we could say, is a pretext, and the performance is the text. So, whatever we script is for performance. So, the script comes to life only through performance. As a book, it has no value. Prasanna's books may have no value, but the performance of his plays has a lot of value. So, that's how I see scripting protest. And starting with Prasanna's own work, one of the plays that has impressed me most is Kuttava Padidare. Now, one of the ways of protesting is to subvert a classic, an existing classic. In Kuttava Padidare, you have one evil king being replaced by a good king. But the title itself of the play, Kuttava Padidare, tapping the snake pit, doesn't really kill the snake. So it is just the establishment continues to be what it is. You may remove one king and put another king there, but the same system, the same establishment, the same corruption, whatever, continues. It may be BJP today, it may be Congress tomorrow, it may be some other XYZ the day after, but things don't change. That's, just to let people know this is the reality, itself is a protest. For me, protest is showing reality for what it is to be. Street theatre, like I have done, excerpts of Bhabri Devi's gang rape or Rup Kanwar's Sati. Now, we have read these reports in newspapers, we have heard a lot about it, but when you present it in the form of a play, it heightens reality and it touches people. It lets them know there's something terribly wrong with what's happening. We have to do something about it. So creating this awareness through a script which is performed, that is what, to me, scripting a protest means.
Safdar's Aurat, was it first scripted? No, I know. It wasn't scripted. It was a performance script which later was put down. Shakespeare's plays, was it first scripted? No. I'm talking historically. I know. Shakespeare's play was performed. It was a performance script which was finally made into a written script. Moliere's script was first a performance script which was made into a written script. I can tell you about all the great plays, they were performance scripts. Andhayuk was a performance script. What I'm trying to say is, somebody sitting in some room, inside a room, and writing a script and giving it to me was a 100-year-old thing. Adya Rangachari used to do that. But today, I want to say that performance is the script. Kuttava Padidare is the script. Nobody is going to give me a script and say that this is the revolution, and you, Mr. Prasanna, you, Mr. Lakshmi, do this. No. You see, of course, it's a very organic one. I am not trying to negate a playwright. It's an organic relationship, and the scripting people have damaged this organic nature of the relationship. That's what I want.
Sir, how about scripting is also a performance? Scripting is also a performative act. Sudhan, how do you respond to Prasanna sir's?
Well, I think, all of today, we've been talking since morning. I've been here and listening to all the sessions. In one way or the other, the idea of democracy has come up again and again and again. And as we all, I think, understand, I'm not saying anything terribly, deep, but there's been a hollowing out of democracy in India in a very fundamental way. Democracy has been reduced to this 5-year ritual of going and voting. Of course, voting is important. And of course, the fact that more and more people have started voting historically over the years is very important. I'm not trying to negate that. But is that all democracy is? Democracy, I feel, is something that we have to fight for, we have to contest, we have to make, shape, and remake every day of our lives. And I feel that theatre has an important part to play in this. Which is to say that what does theatre do? Theatre is not like film, which is filmed and then can be replicated again and again and again to, it's a broadcast medium. It can be broadcast to millions of people at one go. Theatre is a narrowcast medium. Theatre can only happen when audiences and actors are in the same space at the same time. We have to breathe the same air. Only then can theatre happen. And what does theatre fundamentally do? It's really interesting. I've been asked this question again and again. You do this kind of left-wing political theatre, etc., etc. Have you not been attacked? And of course we've been attacked. We've been attacked in various ways. The most serious of those attacks resulted in the death of 2 people, Safdar Hashmi and Ram Bahadur, who was a worker. They were both killed in the attack that happened on the 1st of January 1989. Before that and after that also there have been attacks. But what's really interesting about all of these attacks that we have faced and every other attack that I know of, that I've heard of, I've met people, theatre people who've been attacked. One very interesting thing, which is that people who attack a play don't attack it after watching it. They attack the play because the play is happening. The fact of the play is being attacked, actually. The context of the play is being attacked. It's not because I see a play, I get all worked up and then I want to attack it. No, it doesn't happen like that. And the people who watch a play typically don't attack it. They might get very angry with the play. And sometimes that happens. Audiences, some member of the audience will come up to us and say, no, what you said in this play was very wrong, I'm very angry with this. They might use even strong words, etc. But they will not bash your head in. That, typically doesn't happen. And this has been true of India for a very long time. What does this tell you? The big takeaway that I take out of this is that theatre humanizes. Even a fascist, at some level, is they're a human being, right? There is some humanity in them. And I think one of the things that theatre has the power to do, has the ability to do, is to connect a person with their humanity in some subliminal kind of way, in a very fundamental kind of way. And I think that this power that theatre has, how is this connected to democracy? It is connected to democracy because the fundamental idea of democracy has to be that we can have differences, we can talk about them, we can debate them, we can argue, we can advocate our point of view, etc., etc., without breaking each other's heads. And this is what theatre has the power or the ability, in the best circumstances, to be able to do. That we are all together in this space, spectators and actors are together in one space. They watch one human story unfold. One story unfold that is a human story. And on the basis of that story, you can have a discussion, you can have an argument, you can have disagreements, and so on and so forth. But you have gone through the same emotions. You have laughed together, you have cried together, you have felt angry together, you have felt hurt together, whatever it is that the play has done to you. There's affect, it touches your heart, right? And I think this aspect of democracy is something that theatre is in some ways not uniquely able to do, but it has the power to bring this aspect into it. And this is connected to the fact that democracy, as I said, is not simply a ritual in the political sphere once every 5 years. Democracy is something that has to be made and remade in all aspects of our life, including in classrooms, including in workspaces, including in human relations, including in our drawing room, including in our kitchen and our bedroom as well. All of these have to be democratized. And in order, if you want to democratize all of these spaces, then I think theatre has a unique ability to be able to speak to people at that level, at the level of the heart, not just at the level of the intellect. And that, I think, is a power that theatre has, that I think many other arts don't quite have in the same way.
Srijit, can you relate the same issue with community theatre?
Any kind of a theatre form is a protest. Always, you look at the history of theatre. So wherever it's theatre happening, it's a protest. If there are a crowd, if there is a one single performer standing still without speaking any word, there is a certain tension built. There is a certain kind of a question arise from the audience. Even the performer may not speaking anything in front of the audience. There is a theatre happening. So what I wanted to share, one very important thing, there is a kind of a wonderful shift happening in Kerala right now. There are, downtrodden people, oppressed people. Oppressed, this term actually we know that it's very closely associated with the Aristopole, theatre of the oppressed. So all the downtrodden people, the communities like, transgenders, tribal people, migrant workers, farmers, all of them have, they have started, their own voices through theatre. Very strong voices through the theatre. That's after our 1950s. There is a revolutionary movement happened there in Kerala. People, you may know that all of similar kind of a movement happened maybe here in Karnataka also. So now we can see that theatre again. The people, those who are from the oppressed area, they can actually depend theatre again and again in our present scenario also.
Thank you, Srijit. Now we can take questions from the audience. I request you to kindly be brief and specific about your questions. No comments, only questions.
Thank you. I would prefer to stand and ask. Many themes and threads have come out in your discussion, and I obviously cannot address all of them. Sir, you talked about the death of the pen. You spoke about the war on words. But I'll go one step below and ask a very fundamental question, to me at least. Today, if you go to Assam, Guwahati, there's Kamakya temple, which is very close by. And the goddess is worshipped, and she's supposed to go through this menstrual cycle every year, and there's a lot of reverence and all of that. And yet you talk about how women today, and the menstruation, there's no space, it's all covered in silence. So my question is, despite theatre, despite scripts, writing, performance, have we even made that, have we been able to connect the society? It's like a cognitive dissonance between the two, right? How do you bridge this gap? This question is for everybody. Thank you.
No, this question I don't want to answer because I really don't understand the question.
I mean, honestly, I am also a little intrigued at the question. I can't say I fully understand the question. I mean, to put it very simply, I think I can't theorize about all. I'm an actor. Basically, fundamentally, I'm an actor. I think one of the points that Prasanna made right at the beginning is an important point, which is that theatre has increasingly been marginalized in our imagination of the world. And I think that there's a crying need for theatre to be brought back to the position that it had. And at the same time, I also feel like the rumors of the death of theatre have been grossly exaggerated over the years. Theatre somehow, there's a line from Faiz Ahmed Faiz, and you'll excuse me for quoting it in Hindi, Urdu, Hindustani, because that's the language that I speak best. अपनी तो जिद है कि हम फिर भी जिए जाते हैं. Now, I don't know how to translate this, but basically we are so stubborn that we go on living. Right? It's this stubbornness of theatre that is amongst its most alluring qualities for me. It just refuses to die, the damn thing. And I think that there's something to be said about this. There's something to be said about the power of live performance that just refuses to die. But I think it needs all of us, spectators, actors, directors, writers, media people, whoever it is, to bring theatre back with more power, give more space to theatre. We haven't gone into this whole issue of state support, etc., etc. But all of those things are also required for theatre, right? Why should the state only be supporting, big capitalists to fill their own coffers? Why can't the state support, cultural work and so on? So all those, I think, are interconnected and important issues.
So I just want to know what is the takeaway from this Goshti?
Yeah, there is no takeaway. After this, there will be coffee, tea. The whole idea is to generate the discussion and to make it thought-provoking. If it can generate some thought into, because Sir, he has a problem with this scripting protest. That I didn't think about it.
No, I just
because especially in this AI era, actually writing, we are all afraid of writing is no more writing, but only AI cannot replace live performance. You have the future, sir. We don't have. So that is the takeaway.
No, that's good. We'll definitely enjoy your coffee and discuss. At the same time, for the younger generation, what they should take away from this seminar, that's very important. Because what is happening, at least from my perspective, I am telling, especially after Gat and Denkel, so all these people who are ruling us, they started becoming one. All over the world, not only in India. But people who are supposed to be intellectuals, they are getting divided in all spheres of life. ಜೀವನದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸ್ತರಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವುಗಳು ವಿಘಟನೆಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಆದರೆ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಆಳುವಂತವರು ತುಂಬಾ ಒಂದಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇಂಥ ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಥಿಯೇಟರ್ ಇನ್ನು ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ. Theatre has got more responsibility at this point of time. That we are not seeing. Of course, there are many number of plays are conducted in various places. So many youngsters are coming. For those youngsters, what is the takeaway from this seminar? Humbly, I want to
Yeah,
know it.
for me, the takeaway from this discussion is Prasanna sir's spirit.
1 minute, supplementing what Prakash said. Now that there is a straight attack on freedom of expression, what is the role of state?
No, I was just going to say something quite simple. When I presented my solo performance, Hennalave, Just a Woman, in an international women's conference, one of the comments that came was, this place said more than all the speeches during the conference. So that is the impact theatre has on people. It's more powerful than the newspaper, it's more powerful than all the speeches. And today, of course, the problem is that the speech makers are becoming actors, they are doing theatre. So we have to now compete with them and do better theatre and beat them at their own game. That's all we can, say about theatre today.
ಇವತ್ತು ರಂಗಭೂಮಿಯನ್ನು ಯಾರಾದರೂ ಉಳಿಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗೋದಾದರೆ ಅದು ಯುವಕರಿಗೆ ಮಾತ್ರ. ಮತ್ತು ಯುವಕರು ಎಷ್ಟು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಪ್ರಮಾಣದಲ್ಲಿ ನಟನೆಯ ಕಡೆಗೆ, ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಷನ್ ಕಡೆಗೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಯಾವತ್ತೂ ಬಂದಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. In this country for the last 5,000 years, I don't think there was any time when so many young people deserting their fat jobs, software jobs, engineering jobs are coming into theatre. Every family, every father and mother is so worried that their daughter has suddenly dropped out of a 5 lakh month job. So, but the thing that worries me is when the young people are coming like that, they are getting ghettoized in Bombay, doing some serial and all that. I have no problem with doing serials and cinema. But what I am trying to say is, that cannot be a solution for this amazing resource that we are getting. This resource has to be utilized here, and for that, let me tell you, protest is not just getting dying. That is one very important thing that happened. But let me give you an example of what happened in Russia during the communists. It was an amazing thing. On the streets, the left was fighting the white guards and there was bullets flying, and the revolutionaries were protecting the bourgeois theatre, which is Stanislavski and Chekhov. And this was Lenin's directive. Lenin used to come and watch Moscow Art Theatre during revolution. See, that is also revolution, that's also protest. You have to protect your culture. And protecting culture cannot be done by the prime ministers of this country or by the chief ministers of the country. The prime minister of the country can only understand Ram as a stooge of their party, Hanuman as the stooge of their party. I'm sorry, Ram is not a stooge of any political party. Hanuman is not a stooge of any political party. Ram and Hanuman are great metaphors, the great metaphors which people love. And that metaphor can be realized by theatre. ನಮ್ಮ ರಂಗಭೂಮಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ನಾಟಕ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಆ ರಾಮನ ಪಾತ್ರ ನೋಡಿ ಜನ ಹೋಗಿ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಕಾಲಿ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಬೈತಾರೆ. ತಮಾಷೆ ನೋಡಿ, ಕಾಲಿ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಮಾಡಿ ಜನನೇ ಏನೇ ಆ ಸೀನಲ್ಲಿ ಹಂಗೆ ಕೆಟ್ಟದಾಗ ಯಾಕೆ ಮಾಡ್ದಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಬೈತಾರೆ. ಸಿ, ಈ ಒಂದು this duality is amazing, and that should be brought back. People should participate in theatre. Actors should participate in the society, not always getting killed. These days they are getting killed, unfortunately, which is a very sad thing. But if possible, Narendra Modi should protect theatre and not get goons to attack theatre. Thank you very much.
One last question, Todakagata.
Can we take? Okay, last question.
ಈಗ ನೀನಾಸಮ್ಮು, ಸಾಣೆಹಳ್ಳಿ ಈ ಒಂದು 2-3 ಸ್ಥಳಗಳನ್ನು ಬಿಟ್ಟರೆ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಒಂದು ನಾಟಕ ಕಲೆಗೆ ಮತ್ತು ಅದರ ಪ್ರವರ್ಧನೆಗೆ ಸರ್ಕಾರಗಳಾಗಲಿ ಮತ್ತು ನಿಮ್ಮಂಥವ್ರು ಕೆಲವರು ಬಹಳ ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಮಾಡಿರೋರು ಅದು ಉಳಿಸ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಛಲ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋರು ಬಿಟ್ಟರೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಯುವ ಮನಸ್ಸುಗಳನ್ನು ಅದರ ಕಡೆ ಸೆಳಲಿಕ್ಕಾಗ್ತದೆ? ಯುವ ಮನಸ್ಸುಗಳನ್ನು
ನಾಟಕದ ಕಡೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಬರೀ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಕ್ ಕೊಡೋದು.
Last one question. That gentleman, yeah.
I'll keep this very brief. I think articulations by, of, and with the oppressed and marginalized sections of society has been a motif of this discussion. And if scripting performance and performatively scripting perhaps is one of the ways of reclaiming, remembering these groups and our relations with them, I'm curious from a performative perspective, how does one then devise performance? How does one speak with rather than speak for these groups? Because then there's a risk of appropriation, right? How does one perform emotionally and empathetically, as Wall would say, without, as he described Brecht saying, without us engaging in an emotional orgy of a performance? So how does one speak with these groups, perhaps?
I mean, this is a question that actually deserves a whole, thesis or a book, or an entire day seminar maybe for it. So and I can't speak theoretically or in that way. All I can say is that I think two things are important today. One is that one is to be in alliance with. Right, now obviously I cannot be something that I am not, right? I carry my gender, I carry my sociological background, I carry my educational background, I carry all kinds of privileges in this body, right? I can't change that, right? But what I can do is that I can put my privilege in the service of groups that may not have the same privilege. But for that, it cannot be a top-down process. It can't be me looking down and saying, oh, let me do some good. No. It has to be a process of learning. And you have to learn from the people. You really have to learn from. I cannot pretend that I know more about oppression than a Dalit woman does. I cannot know more about exploitation in a factory more than a worker does, because I've never worked in a factory myself. But what I can do is that I can listen. I can experience something through my own experience, but I can experience it, and what I have is the ability to tell stories through my body. I can use my body as an actor and use this ability that I have in order to tell stories, and of course also open up this space for people who may not have access to it. So that's one point I want to make. The second and the last point I want to make is that in today's context, I think it is true that at least in North India I see this a lot. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that at least in certain sections in North India, the ideology of Hindutva has gone down deep. We can't pretend that it's only surface level. It's only to do with this political party that. No, the ideology has gone down deep of Hindutva itself. The casteist, feudal, patriarchal, etc., all of that has gone down deep. And so therefore, you still want to speak with these people who may actually believe in Hindutva. You have to find a way, you have to find a vocabulary. And that vocabulary has to be through our theatre. It can't be an intellectual exercise only. It has to be something that we have to struggle with in the making of our plays, in the acting of our plays. We have to find a way to talk to people who may not have the same opinions, who may not hold the same ideologies as I do. Yeah? We have to open these bridges, we have to talk to people. In particular, we have to talk to young people. So thank you very much for your question.
I would like to thank the entire audience for. Yes.
I just want to add just one thing to what Sudhanva has said. ನಾಟಕ ಅಂದರೆ ಆಟ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ, ಆಡೋದೇ ಮರ್ತ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀವಿ ನಾವು. ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಬಿಕಮ್ ಟೂ ಸೀರಿಯಸ್. ನಾಟಕನ ಆಡಬೇಕು, ಸಾಹಿತಿಗಳ ತರ ತುಂಬಾ ಗಂಭೀರವಾಗಿ ಕುತ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರು ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕುತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರೆಯೋದೆಲ್ಲ ನಾಟಕನ ಆಡಬೇಕು. ಆಡುವ ನಟನೆ ಅದನ್ನೇ ಯುವಕರು ಇವತ್ತು ಬಯಸ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು. Young people want to play the game of theatre. They don't have the theatre, but let us provide theatre so that the young can feel happy about it. And that's why I feel the greatest revolutionary actor was Chaplin, is Chaplin, and is going to be Chaplin.
I thank all the panelists and our moderator to having conducted the panel very well. I request all of you for a brief photograph. It was indeed a very powerful session. Thank you so much, all of you.